Okay, sounds good. I don't know why you can't see me, but it's weird.
It's a
Switch
great looking
camera.
room.
Thanks. Uh, You know, it's so weird. All right, well, you're just gonna have to look at my room today.
No, not a problem.
All right.
Not a problem. All right. So I think we've given people some time, and so if there's some stragglers that come in, then I trust that Mariah will be able to let them in. So we will get started. Um, Thank you, Daphne, for joining us. Um, we are going to talk a lot today about the trends that we are seeing, not necessarily just when it comes to the capabilities of AI, but actually when it comes to the fear or reprehension that people have around adopting AI. And more specifically, we'll get into ways that we think that businesses should start to gradually take that step into that, what people are thinking is the deep end of the pool, if you will. And so, one thing that I'm going to highlight around this is sort of a not awesome experience that I recently had with AI. And if anybody here wants to share their own after I'm done, I'd love that. I travel from Maine to Richmond every 3 months, which is where AMC is located. And just as is my luck, I have travel trouble every once in a while, and it requires me to talk to airline support. And so the airline that I use uses business chat through text, which is really nice. Except that when I first log a ticket, essentially, when I send the message, every single time they make me go through a chat bot of some sort. Never in the many times that I've had to use it has the chat bot ever presented me with self service options that actually help me solve the problem I'm attempting to solve. However, every time I'm given the ability to talk to a real person, the real person fixes my problem in 15 minutes or less. I'm rarely transferred to another agent. so on and so forth. It works wonderfully. And so that is a little bit of a frustrating experience that I have had with customer facing, front facing, external facing AI, if you will. Praveen or Daphne, do either of you have any similar experiences to share yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, as I talk to various different customers, one of the major things that every enterprise is very cautious. I mean, I can relate to your experience that you experienced, David, in terms of what is available today through AI automation, especially AI bots, and what an enterprise and business are ready to expose, and to what extent they want AI to take autonomous on what task they expect AI to take on and be able to do self-service, especially with respect to whether the AI is compliance, following compliance rules, as well as adopting responsible AI, and making sure that it is providing the privacy as well as adhering to non-discrimination and using certain terms that are not that are aligned with that enterprise policies. There's a lot of aspects that enterprises are very keen in how do they adopt responsible AI, and where should they start, and what are the different use cases that they need to step in to begin with, and slowly how can that be adopted across enterprise. These are various different questions and challenges that enterprises face today.
Right.
And I mean, now, as you have mentioned, they have started that chatbots and AI providing that self-service paths. But at the same time, understanding for enterprises to be able to be more comfortable in trusting that AI is actually adhering to all their policies is the next step in what they are trying to determine as to what should that journey be, and how safe it is, and how can they execute it more safely and responsibly. And that's what is the topic of today's discussion.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Praveen. You brought up a really good point there that I hadn't really thought about. It's this idea of when you have an external facing chatbot, you're putting a lot of trust in that, especially if, it's driven by, a ChatGPT or some other model. You're putting a lot of trust in it being able to mirror your company's values, right? Every company, every vertical, they have their own verbiage, vernacular, diction that they use to ensure that they're communicating responsibly to their customers. And I think you'd have to be living under a rock to have not noticed in popular culture instances of when some of those chatbots and things of that nature aren't necessarily responding in the most responsible, appropriate, sensitive manner, if you will. And so that begs my next question is, where do you think, Praveen, is really the best way to begin that gentle AI adoption process? Because what I just described and what you alluded to, that introducing a chatbot or something like that to your customer base front facing, and having it not be capable of mirroring your customer values or your company values, that is, seems like a path that would not be very successful. And so I'm wondering, what is, in your opinion, where is the best place for a business to begin using AI adoption? Is it internal use?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, David. So even if you before I answer your question, I just want to cover or clarify one of those general um, concerns that or understanding that most of the time customers ask when I have a discussion with them is there are a lot of chatbots today and customer-facing systems that are there today, and why is that not a good place to start? because a lot of companies have already started there. So it's not that uh, we cannot start on the customer side or the agent side. So most of the times, self-service is where businesses want to go, and that's the reality of it. And what businesses are doing currently or deploying currently is rule-based systems. When I say
Okay.
rule-based systems, you predetermine or identify ahead of time what are all the different use cases a business want to expose self-service to their end customers, and define all those use cases and predetermine as to what path you are expecting AI to take and what specific services and exactly in what form you want AI to respond for those specific business use cases. And that is what the rule based systems are being created today. And that's the experience that you have gone through, where they already predetermined what are all the various different use cases and rules that are driven by specific rules within their system. And based on those rules, AI would identify whether it can provide responses within its scope that is defined for it. So that is
Okay.
what is being defined. The only limitation with that is it's tremendous amount of work
Right.
if an enterprise has to do a rule-based system first or self-service across all of their entire functionality that they're expecting their self-service to provide. And that's a challenge that enterprises face today of not being able to, it's not practical to expand rule-based systems across their needs.
Right. And so that, I think about the experience that I had with trying to reschedule my flights. There's no the airline that I'm going through has the resources theoretically to build out this rule-based system that would work more smoothly. However, as you're saying, you can have all the resources in the world. It's still going to take a lot of man hours for you to determine what are all those possible use cases so that we can make sure that that what it is that we're putting out there is actually useful for people. And so it takes a lot of work, is what you're saying, right, Praveen?
That's correct. Building
Yeah.
those rule-based systems takes significant amount of time. And that's where Gen AI comes into picture, where the main purpose is we should not be defining each and every possible use case and every single rule that's possible out there versus the Gen AI we should be feeding all of our enterprise data to Gen AI and have Gen AI determine the context and as well as intent of the request or questions that customers are asking and determine what would be the appropriate response based on the content that is already provided to it or trained upon.
Sure. So,
That would be, sorry, go ahead.
well, given how difficult that is that you're describing, how difficult this process is and how much thought that you need to put into a lot of this, and the work that would go in for people thinking about how to use Gen AI and things of that nature. Where do you think is the best place for a company to begin AI adoption? Where's the first place you think makes the most sense? I'm assuming that it's internal facing, not external facing. Would this be something to aid your current agents that you have, something like that?
Yes, I mean, that's a really good question, David. When it comes to implementation, like a Gen AI, for example, where we want enterprise to be able to feed all of their data into Gen AI within their environment, not exposed to internet, um, and be able to prompt any question to Gen AI and have it provide responses. Now, in this entire process, one of the key aspects that enterprise wants to make sure is how confident the enterprise organization is to the responses that the Gen AI is going to provide now, how accurate it is, and is there any possibility of being human being in the loop in that process where there is a verification layer in a sense where a response is provided by Gen AI, how can they vet their response that it provides? And if a human has to be in that loop to vet the responses, at least to begin with, so that as they go through that journey, they get more confidence on the system based on the responses it is generating. And at the same time, every enterprise is not a static organization. So every day they have some rules being changed, the processes being changed, new products introduced, new policies introduced, and the system is being continuously being fed with new information. So they also need to vet that every single change that's happening within their system and what's being trained on, whether it is providing the latest information or is providing the old information. So all of these things ought to be vetted, and and a human in the loop is what the enterprise are looking at as the solution at this point in time, where they want to adopt Gen AI, but at the same time they want to make sure that there is a human in the loop and there is someone who is vetting the responses and then providing immediate reply or confirmation whether it provided correct response or it not provide a correct response as a feedback, and then utilizing that information and relaying that to the customer at the end of the day. But through that process, at least they can speed up their work by doing so. So given these circumstances and what are all things that ought to be put in place, what we are observing from customer adoption perspective is using the if we have to go through that process of in terms of adoption, then starting with the employees would be the right place to start, where if an employee is exposed to a Gen AI system where a customer has called in and they have to identify what is the best resource they need to share it with the customer, or they need to do a knowledge search or identify what is the best action that they can take within the scope of their policies and rules and processes that they have that they can share with the customer. They can have the Gen AI immediately provide recommendations, and that is those recommendations can be vetted by that particular agent or an employee and share that responses with the customer. So that way, as they adopt in this fashion, the enterprises would be able to be more confident in the responses that the Gen AI system is providing. At the same time, they have human in the loop, and there are someone in an employee who's vetting the responses, and then as well as providing feedback right away if the system is providing right response or not, correct responses, and timely response or not, and as well as provide those responses to the customers as long as they are appropriate to be shared. In doing so, it not only is helping enterprises get to the place where they want to be in terms of Gen AI adoption, but at the same time, even during this adoption phase, they would be able to speed up the time that an employee needs to do any research or identifying the right articles or suggesting the next best actions. That process can be speeded up so that you would be able to get better metrics and ROI out of the individual teams in terms of first call resolution or reducing the average call handle time.
Right. So what you're essentially describing is a tool to supplement the training that the agents are already receiving from the enterprise, and the way to ensure that this tool is giving you the results that you want. I'm assuming hypothetically that you would want just a few agents using it at first, probably some of your high flyers, the ones that have been there the longest, that understand the company's policies and processes and the way that they want questions to be answered the most, to vet those questions and those answers that are coming in from the AI, so you ensure that they're actually giving you good recommendations and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't necessarily replace agent training, but it would certainly supplement it and help people find answers more quickly, basically.
Hey, that's exactly right, David. I mean, in terms of adoption itself, yes, as you pointed out, I mean, even that's the same process that every enterprise or a contact center follow today. Of any new
Yeah.
tool that they introduce, they bring it to the most experienced agents or employees first. and then get their feedback and then roll it to the rest of the group within the organization. So because a continuous phase-based approach, typically the enterprise, any contact center introduce new tools to make sure that they have a feedback loop set up, and that is feedback loops are taken very seriously and diligently in terms of what tools are being introduced, what feedback they receive, and how do they need to improve that and then introduce to newer employees.
Awesome. So that's one use case that we've covered there. The idea of agent assist, I guess, is what we would really refer to what we just talked about. Next best action, that sort of thing. I suppose. Are there a couple other use cases you could think of that would be that we have come across here at AMC that you think would be a good place for people to start or begin researching on?
I mean, the two major primary use cases, there are three, in fact, because there is service use cases, service-based, customer service-based use cases, there is sales-based use cases, and there is an IT-based use cases.
Okay.
So these are three different areas, LOBs, specifically for an organization where they can adopt Gen AI or agent assist. Because David, we both were on a call with one of our customers,
Mm-hmm.
where it was really fascinating, surprising in a way to see in this era where they don't have a good knowledge base search when the call comes in. So in their case, whenever a customer called in, they have a lot of products that they need to support. At the same time, it's really impractical for them to train everyone on what all products that they have on their
Right.
inventory, and at the same time, all the specs for those products and how do you troubleshoot those and so on and so forth. And their search was not that great, and we saw that even for agents to determine whether the product, a certain product is still is something that they are selling, or they did end of life of that, they're not selling it anymore, and they're not going to support it anymore. Even for that information, they're going on to Google to figure out if they find that product is still listed on their website or not. That's
Right.
that's
Yeah,
really hard to train.
That's impossible to train because the results and we've talked about this, Praveen, the results that those agents are getting by going to a search engine instead of an internal tool are going to be different every single time that they use that search. I can't tell you how many times I've, just as an example, Googled dairy-free pancake recipe, and there's a different result at the top of the list every single time that I do it. And so how can you, as an enterprise, as a business, have faith in the information that your agents are finding if you know that they're going somewhere as easily influenced as a search engine?
Yeah, that's impractical to train in that model, where especially the results, as you pointed out, David, as the results could be different, and it cannot be trained in that fashion. Like for that particular use case and the situation that particular enterprise organization is, essentially, assist is a significant value add because they're taking a lot of time to research, identify the products, how do you troubleshoot those products, and so on and so forth. In those cases, Gen AI is a great fit, where when you have a humongous amount of data that continuously being fed, then you have it fed to Gen AI and have that Gen AI prompt the responses depending upon the product that the customer is talking about, and as well as what are all the various different specs it has, and the problem that customer is describing and how to troubleshoot based on the description that the customer has provided. That is significantly reduces the call handle time that the agents are going to go through. If we were on the call providing help with that customer, and we can see that they spend 20 minutes with no resolution.
Mm-hmm.
That's significant time for a contact center to have an agent spend 20 minutes with no resolution at all.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. There's a lot that you can do in 20 minutes. I mean, we've had this conversation that we're having right now for 20 minutes, and we've accomplished quite a lot. Um, so how, we've talked about these various use cases. We've talked about some of the challenges that we've seen business have. How is it that, from your perspective, DaVinci is able to support the adoption of these use cases, the adoption of AI in general?
Yeah, I mean, coming to providing this adoption perspective, I mean, DaVinci being an orchestration engine for employee and agent experiences. One of the key aspects that DaVinci supports now is being able to bring in live transcript. That is a key factor where, irrespective of the channel, if it is voice, because voice is the king, still the king in the industry, where a lot of customers, a lot of users tend to go back to voice channel to be able to get help as quickly as possible. Of course, there's a lot of wait times, but it could be text, if it could be chat sessions that could be happening, or any social media or any place wherever the text form of transcript is coming through, where we have the capability to bring in all of that in real time, whether it is voice or chat or any other channel, and how that being automatically be DaVinci being orchestration platform, be able to bring all of that content in real time and provide it to Gen AIs, like especially if it is Microsoft Azure OpenAI, or even Copilot, or even Salesforce AI, be able to push that live transcript into those engines, so that the Gen AI is able to understand in real time, along with the agent. You have an assistant on the side as an ally to be continuously monitoring and understanding the conversation that is happening. And whenever there is a context around a product or anything that is related to that particular organization, it automatically prompts the agent that this is a topic that, what is the relevant content for that particular conversation. If it is about a product, if it is about a case, even if it is about a case that they are referring to, being able to look at the automatically read how the AI read the content of the particular case, understand what the case is about, and be able to prompt that particular agent what should the next best action should be. At the same time, what is the related technical content or even procedural content associated with it? So having that having that Gen AI automatically provide that information to the agent, which significantly reduces the research and the time that the agent need to spend. At the same time, an agent need not be the most experienced agent within that organization to be able to provide accurate and quick responses to the customers and resolutions.
So it really all starts, based on what you're saying, Praveen, with DaVinci's ability to, push that transcript into the CRM in front of the agent, so that then you're able to use the AI capabilities of whatever tool it is that you've decided to use, or whatever use case it is you're trying to solve, to then be able to use that transcript to create actionable items.
That's true.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty powerful, because essentially what we're saying is that, using DaVinci to push that transcript into the place that you want it to, so that you can either use, as you're talking about, agent assist in next best action and things like that. I think about, my life before this. I sold cars, right? And so there were a lot of times where I had to take phone training, and they give you these word tracks that you have to use. And, speaking directly to you, Daphne, I'm sure you guys have specific word tracks and phone training that you're giving your agents. Now, for these businesses that do this, be it somebody who's trying to sell cars, sell a vacation, sell anything, you're told this is the way that we do it because this is the way that we do it. But what if you could actually have actionable metrics on how it is that the words that you're using, the word tracks that you're using, the the overcoming objection strategies that you're using? What if you could have metrics that actually show you if that is landing well with the customer or not? And so I think about sentiment analysis in those cases. It might be difficult to do that real time, but imagine if you as a team once a week, once every 2 weeks, were able to actually look through a few calls that have been picked out and look at, the sentiment that AI has pointed out on how the end customer is reacting to the word tracks that you're using, the objection strategies that you're using, the resolution strategies that you're using. You can actually see how they're reacting based on the tone that they're using, the words that they're choosing to use to respond to. I just think about how that could potentially totally change the way that customer service representatives, especially in a sales and a service experience, it totally changed the way that we choose to interact with our customers. The ways that we think right now land the best may not, but we have no solid way of challenging our preconceived notions. You can have the best of intentions, but you can only act on the data you have. And from my perspective, unless companies are using something like this, something like DaVinci, to be able to drive a use case like that, I don't know how you can say that you have access to the best information. So that's a pet use case of mine that I've thought up, and I've run through a million other people waiting for somebody to tell me that I'm off my rocker, but nobody has yet. So so maybe I'll run into somebody soon. So Praveen, I'm wondering from your perspective, companies are scared of AI. They're scared to adopt AI. They can hear me wax poetically about that use case. They can hear what it is that you're saying about how powerful AI is and how it's really not all that difficult to adopt. But we're still seeing people really slow to pull that trigger on the adoption and to give it a shot. And so, do you have, based on your experience, a way that you think businesses could best dip their toe in the water and take a look at what AI could do for their business specifically?
Yeah, I mean that's a typical question that every customer asks us as today when I talk to them is, where do we begin?
Right.
What should the starting point, and what should that adoption should look like? And at the end of the day, what is the ROI I'm looking at? Because that's what eventually in terms of service industry or sales is about. Okay, how many? If it is service, is to what the ROI I'm looking at and savings that I'm going to get out of this adoption. Versus if it is sales, okay, how are my numbers are going to change? So that's what the bottom line is. And in terms of AR adoption, uh, of course, we want to make sure that the metrics are the key aspects, because what is driving the business and what's the business value we're driving is what I focus mostly on. In terms of whether if it is a service industry, then in terms of what is improvement in terms of metrics? How can you save time? How can you save your agent's time? How can you have your new agent or least experienced agent who has not been trained on every single when compared to someone who has been there for 10 years versus someone joined been there just for 1 year. Obviously there will be a difference in how they will be able to get through their cases or even get through the calls and get to the first call resolution or close more sales. So it's about how do we bridge that gap and how can AI help those across the board, not only a well-seasoned employee or an agent to a new person who just happened to join, and then how it's going to help them as well, and how can it bring improvement as well as productivity gains across the board. And within those aspects, we want to make sure that, I mean, anything that is very huge is going to be more delusional, and it doesn't give right um, data for leaders to make a decision on. Because every leader that we talk to, they want to make sure that they have a data to back it up, and they are making decisions based on the data, and as well as they're expecting to make sure that they have what should their metrics improvement be, what are the results that they want to compare with once they deploy a new solution. So they want to have those targets being set. So they want to have these actionable metrics, actionable results to compare against. And then how can we improve upon as we see the gaps? Obviously, first, when you deploy first time, every solution or every implementation or every adoption obviously sees some challenges. But at the same time, having metrics and something to compare against would help improve that process over time. And that's what the feedback loop and the continuous iterative process is going to be in every organization. So to begin with, what we recommend is identifying what's the goal that we're trying to accomplish. If it is service, for example, I want to make sure that we are providing efficient processes for our employees to improve their performance. And is that related to, and take certain metrics, key KPI and metrics that could be, are we improving on our average call handle time? Are we improving on first call resolution? Are we improving on lead conversion? If it is sales, are we improving on closed sales? So where exactly are we able to do? Or how are we improving on the number of calls that the agents or sales are able to complete and move through the list of leads that they have? How quickly they are able to accomplish it? So if you start from there and then drill down to how is the AI going to be an ally to the agents in improving these metrics?
Right. So essentially, what we're saying is that have an intentional goal, a clear goal that you're trying to drive towards to prove out whether or not the specific AI capabilities that you're taking a look at, the specific use cases you're trying to solve, um, align with key metrics that you use internally to measure the success of your agents, of your business, of the group that this is related to, and see how the AI tools that you've decided to integrate and to use DaVinci to assist orchestrate are actually driving towards improving those key metrics, so that you actually have something concrete to measure against and you can come to an objective truth, basically.
That's exactly, yes. Unless the proposal is in that format, leaders would never approve to implement. I mean, it's always great to talk about it,
Yeah.
talk about a new thing that's happening in the market, what is a buzz in the market, and what are things that are possible to be done. But adoption would only happen if there is some concrete metrics and the improvement that you can show, that you can demonstrate and actually measure along the way, so that you have something to compare against and then actually have an incremental improvement plan.
Okay. Awesome. I think that this is that's great advice, Praveen, and I really appreciate all the insights that you've had for us. Now, Daphne, do you have any specific questions for Praveen or I at this point about anything that we've talked about?
I can't say that I have anything specific.
Okay.
I'm not overly knowledgeable in this area, so I find it all very interesting and um, there's a lot of information for sure. So I'm learning a lot while I'm here.
It is a lot of information, and I think that sentiment is shared across a lot of industries and verticals and positions within all of these different companies that we're working with. I think a lot of people feel like they're trying to drink water from a fire hose when they take a look at what's available for AI, and so I hope that coming out of this today for you who's here and for others who will look at the recording, that at least we've been able to make it manageable, a little bit easier to understand where it is that businesses can take that first step into using AI and how you can set yourself up to be successful. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
all right. Well, I really appreciate you joining us, Daphne, and I appreciate you, Praveen, for answering my questions and humoring some of my wacky ideas. I do want to mention that at the end of July, we have Raj, our development manager, who's going to be doing his quarterly webinar, where he's going to be talking about stuff that Dev has worked on this quarter and what it is that we're looking at, on the roadmap for the near future. So would be more than happy for everybody who's watching, and Daphne for who's here to attend and listen and ask questions. So I really appreciate you for joining, Daphne, and thank you again, Praveen, for joining me and answering my questions. And I think that's it for us today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have
Absolutely.
a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.